What's growing on, gardeners? It's Thursday, February 29th, and winter is winding down here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina, and that means everybody is starting their tomato seeds. That's why on today's video, I'm going to share with all of you my 3 best tasting, most productive tomato varieties that I have ever found, but I will also share 3 solid runners-up just in case my personal tastes are a little different than yours.
If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit the bell to receive new video notifications, and check out our Amazon store and Spreadshop links in the video description for everything I use in my garden and awesome custom designed apparel and other gear. Your support is greatly appreciated.
I have confessed to you in the past that I have this crazy tomato growing addiction, and over the years I have grown literally hundreds of varieties of tomatoes, and I live in a very challenging climate here in the southeast in coastal North Carolina, so I deal with insane rain, humidity, and insect pressure. So I have tried all of these different tomato varieties to vet them, to find the absolute best producing, best tasting, most disease resistant varieties, and this is what I have come up with. Tomato variety number 1 is a Beefsteak Indeterminate tomato, and it is the number 1 tomato that I simply can't grow without. I have been growing this tomato for literally 8 years straight, and it always has a primo spot in my garden because it is the absolute best tomato that I have ever grown in my entire life, and that is the Brandy Boy hybrid. This is a hybrid made by Burpee. It's an F1, and it is made to very closely approximate the infamous, famous Brandywine Pink Sudeth strain. Over the years, I have grown every single one of the original Brandywine heirlooms that I could get my hands on, including many of the hybrids made by other companies that try to preserve the quality of the fruit, but make them more disease resistant and more productive. And believe me, I've grown a lot more varieties than these. These are just the only seed packets I've had left over. The other ones I either threw away because they were underwhelming, or I ran out of all the seeds, and this is all I have left. But out of all of the tomatoes, the most infamous, the most legendary is probably the original Brandywine Pink Sudeth strain. This is like the OG, the original great pink tomato, and for very good reason. Aside from maybe a perfectly ripe Brandywine Yellow, which by the way has terrible production and terrible disease resistance, this may be the finest tasting beefsteak slicing tomato I've ever had in my entire life. Now you may be wondering, if Brandywine Pink is so fantastic, why don't you just grow that? Why are you bothering with Brandy Boy? Well, that's because all of the original Brandywine heirlooms have a lot of problems. They all suffer from production issues, heat tolerance issues, and they're very susceptible to disease. And while Brandywine Pink is probably the most robust of all of them, it still has a lot of issues. And I just don't want to spend all summer fighting my tomatoes only to get 5 pounds of tomatoes off a big old plant. Well, Brandy Boy fixes all of these issues. It is way more disease resistant than Brandywine Pink, and it gives you way more fruit, at least double the fruit set, and it tastes virtually identical. There is no difference between Brandy Boy. When it is perfectly ripe, it is exactly as good. It is shocking. Every year, Brandy Boy never disappoints. I get huge stocky plants loaded with fruit. And again, I've been growing this for 8 years in 2 different states on 3 different properties, and it always outperforms. So I get all of the wonderful flavor of Brandywine Pink with none of the problems, and it keeps producing throughout the summer, throughout the heat, where other varieties fail. That's what makes this so great. If you live in a difficult climate where you think growing heirloom tomatoes is not possible, this really challenges that assumption. This will grow in even the most challenging environments, and you will get a harvest off of the plants, and that's what makes this so fantastic. Now, if pink heirloom type tomatoes are not your speed, I have to give a very close runner-up to Big Beef. Also an F1 hybrid, Big Beef is just absolutely incredible. It has to be the most productive beefsteak tomato I have ever seen. Huge, perfect tomatoes that never scar, never crack, super disease resistant. They're all roughly a uniform 12 to 16 ounce size. They are just incredible. So if you like a standard red tomato that is perfect every single time, I really recommend Big Beef. Now the reason why this is a runner-up is because I don't think it has the flavor that Brandy Boy does. Brandy Boy is just incredible to me. It has that incredible pink tomato acid bite that I just crave all year long. But that being said, Big Beef is still a very good tasting tomato. Now this year, instead of growing the standard F1 hybrid Big Beef, I'm trying a new one called Big Beef Plus. It is a brand new seed, it's a new development. It's supposed to be the exact same Big Beef with even more disease resistance. Whether or not that's true, I will find out this year, and I'm really excited to see Big Beef Plus. So these are both under consideration if you want an extremely disease resistant, perfect fruiting hybrid. Variety number 2 is an indeterminate cherry tomato. I have tried so many different varieties of cherry tomatoes over the years, trying to find the best performer, and the one that I'm currently giving the trophy to is Sun Sugar. Now this may come as a surprise to many of you, and this also may be very controversial. And that is for 2 different reasons. Number 1, Sun Sugar is a yellow cherry tomato. It is not a red tomato. So because of that, some people may be reluctant to try it. Number 2 is because there is this huge tomato community rivalry going on between Sun Gold and Sun Sugar, which are 2 hybrid yellow indeterminate cherry tomatoes. And they are very similar. I have been growing both for several years, and just a couple of years ago I did a side-by-side comparison and a taste test. And what were the results of that taste test? Well, I actually gave the edge to Sun Gold purely based on flavor. Sun Gold just has an unbelievable flavor that just can't be beat. So why am I picking Sun Sugar? Well, that's because there are more things that you need to evaluate than just flavor alone. First off, Sun Sugar is about 90 to 95% as good as Sun Gold. But Sun Sugar is extremely crack resistant, whereas Sun Gold bursts apart and cracks at the first sign of rain. The fruits themselves are much larger, the plants are far more robust, and you get a way larger harvest, and Sun Gold actually is not very disease resistant at all. I grow Sun Gold every year because I love the flavor so much, but the plants are dying back on me come late June, early July. They just can't hold on, whereas Sun Sugar keeps pumping out large, beautiful, delicious fruit. I'm just so impressed by its vigor. It is just a wonderful performer. So while Sun Gold may be ever so slightly better tasting, Sun Sugar gives you bigger fruits, they give you a whole lot more fruits, and they keep producing all throughout the year. So for that reason, I recommend for anybody looking for the perfect cherry tomato that tastes absolutely fantastic, they try Sun Sugar. But if Sun Sugar is not your speed, a very close runner-up is also a cherry indeterminate, and that is called Super Sweet 100. This has to be the most productive, disease-resistant tomato I have ever seen in my entire life. I have never seen any tomato produce the yields that Super Sweet 100 does, and I've never seen a tomato plant that lasts longer into the season for me. So because of this, this is my absolute workhorse production cherry tomato. So why don't I list this as number 1? Well, it's a very basic tomato. It tastes very good, it's sweet, it has a good zing to it, don't get me wrong, but your Sun Sugar, in my opinion, tastes so much better. So because Sun Sugar is such a great performer and it tastes so good, I'm giving it the edge. While nothing can really compete with Super Sweet 100 in terms of yields, it's because it just doesn't have that perfect flavor like Sun Sugar does that I give Sun Sugar the slight edge. But this is still an absolutely fantastic runner-up. And tomato number 3 is the only tomato that I have consistently found to give Brandy Boy or your Brandywine Pink a run for its money in the flavor department, and that is Rosella Purple. The taste and flavor of Rosella Purple consistently blows me away, and the best part is this is a Dwarf Tomato Project tomato. The plants only grow to be about 24 to 30 inches tall, so you can grow these practically anywhere. You can grow these in containers. You get big yields of fruit on little tiny plants. Rosella Purple was a bit of an accidental discovery for me. For years I looked for a very good tasting black tomato because it's nice having not only a variety in terms of looks, something that's a different color, but also a tomato that's very sweet. And your black tomatoes tend to be low acid, sweeter in flavor, and they kind of have the smoky backing to them. Now for years I messed around with Cherokee Purple, which has a good flavor, but I always got bad production. I always got green shoulders that never ripened properly on the tops of the tomato. Well, long story short, I stumbled across the Dwarf Tomato Project, and it sounded like Rosella Purple was going to be a very interesting variety, and here we are 7 years later. I still plan plant it every single year, and I discontinued Cherokee Purple years ago because it's just not worth growing. This is easier to grow, and the fruit, in my opinion, is way better tasting. It's sweeter than Cherokee Purple. It doesn't have any of the issues with the green shoulders. You get pure, meaty, delicious tomatoes. And as an added bonus, Rosella Purple is one of the earliest tomatoes I have ever seen. They produce in only about 55 to 60 days after germination, which puts them on par to an early Determinate variety tomato, but they have all of the flavor of your late season heirlooms. They are just incredible. And if this all sounds too good to be true, there is one drawback to Rosella Purple. That is, it is very susceptible to heat and disease. So for that reason, I have to start all of my Rosella Purple plants early, and I have to get them out into my garden as early as possible before it gets too hot here, because they are one of the first plants to suffer and die in the heat and humidity and rainfall. Now, this is not a big deal for me because they are a dwarf tomato project tomato. They only grow to be 24 to 30 inches tall, so they are perfect to grow in containers. So what I do is I start my Rosella Purple seeds anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks before my main crop tomatoes, and then I plant them out into containers because it's plenty warm enough in the day in March to get your tomato plants out, and then if it's going to frost or freeze at night, I carry them in. It's only a few nights that happens in March for me. So these are a tomato plant that you want to get out about a month early, carry them into your garage or your sunroom or inside just a few nights when it's going to frost or freeze, and then you will get really early tomatoes. And if you live in a climate where it doesn't get incredibly hot all summer long, this may not be an issue, but if you want to grow this tomato in the deep south, it is susceptible to heat and disease. So the earlier you can get it out, the better. But if Rosella Purple doesn't sound attractive to you for whatever reason, and maybe you want a more standard red tomato, my close runner-up is an early Determinate tomato called Siletz. Out of all of the different early Determinate varieties that I've tried over the years, Siletz is by far my favorite red tomato, and it is incredibly productive. Now, Siletz was bred by Oregon State University specifically to tolerate cool nights and cool days of the coastal Pacific Northwest, where they generally don't get enough heat to grow tomatoes and get them to ripen properly consistently. So I have had enormous success growing the Siletz tomato early and growing it the same way that I grow Rosella Purple. I plant my seeds about 3 to 4 weeks earlier than my main crop tomatoes. I put them in containers, and then it forms a little tiny 2-foot tall bush that produces a profuse amount of roughly 8-ounce slicing tomatoes of excellent flavor. They do tend to have a little bit of a problem with cracking, so if your rainfall is very infrequent, you may want to irrigate them consistently and mulch them well to try and minimize the cracking, or harvest them a little bit early and let them ripen on your countertop. That is one of the downsides, at least for me here in the humid southeast, but it is still an absolutely fantastic tomato. And what's really cool is a lot of the early Determinate varieties of tomatoes, they lack a little bit of flavor, but the Siletz does not. It is heirloom quality taste. It is one of the best tasting red tomatoes out there. So you will also get fantastic taste in the deal. Now, the only reason why I don't put Siletz above Rosella Purple is because I love having a really sweet tasting purple tomato in my arsenal to add more diversity, and I do think that the Rosella Purple does taste better than Siletz. But that doesn't change the fact that Siletz is a really delicious tomato and very easy to grow. Just be aware, just like Rosella Purple, it is very susceptible to heat and disease. It was specifically bred for the cool climate of the Pacific Northwest, so it does great in the early spring, but once the heat switches on, it doesn't do too well. So make sure you get the plants in early so you maximize the harvests while it's still relatively cool at night during the day. Cool, not cold. It's a tomato plant. It still can't tolerate frost or freeze. Now you may have noticed I don't have a seed packet for Silettes. That's because I ran out of seeds and I threw the seed packet away. But it is an open pollinated variety that's been around for about 30 years. It's very easy to find. I've purchased the seed both from tomato growers and Victory Seeds, and if you type Silettes tomato into Google, it will give you a ton of different options to buy your seed from. And that right there are the 3 most delicious, most productive tomatoes that I have ever grown, and 3 really close runner-ups in case my 3 favorite aren't exactly your speed, or maybe you want to grow 6 or more varieties of tomatoes and have incredible production like I have. So everybody, I sure hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and please ring that notification bell so you're notified when I release more videos like these. If you're curious about any of the products that I use in real life to grow food in my garden, I have them all linked down below in my Amazon storefront in the video description. So expand that video description, click on the Amazon link, and you'll see everything I use in real life. And while you're there, check out my spread shop for custom merch if you want to support the channel. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see all of you again on the next video.
Oh boy, I wonder where Dale is. We never leave this door open into the guest bedroom. I wonder if he's in here. Oh my goodness. Dale, you're not supposed to be in here. Are you hogging all the pillows? I think somebody is loving all of these decorative pillows. Look at him. Oh, my buddy. We have to wash these sheets anyway, so we'll let you stay in here this one night, okay? Just this once, and then once we put everything in the washing machine, you can't be in here anymore. We have to keep this room clean for the guests. Right, buddy? Oh, he looks so comfortable. Look at all of those plush pillows. He's just loving life.